I don't know if any of them are more juicy. So this is Kepler's laws. Here are two people. Notice that, shut up, that Brahe is really old enough to be Kepler's dad. Do we notice that? Pretty much he's old enough to be Kepler's dad. He's not super old, but he's definitely like a generation apart. So Brahe's the old guy and Kepler's the new guy, and it's Kepler's laws, and it's not Brahe's laws. But Kepler's laws are based on Brahe's data, because Brahe is a wealthy man. He doesn't have to work much during the days, and he can stay up all night and he can chart the positions of stars. And he can chart in those stars the positions of planets, and that's really sort of an exciting thing, because they knew where the stars were, but the planets move across the sky. In fact, the word planet in Greek means wanderer. Yes. There we go. So that song, Wanderer, right, in Greek is like planet, right? Well, they do it different, you know. Okay, so he is plotting, basically the mystery here is, why do the planets do what they do in the sky? Because they're really weird, right? Mercury goes really fast. It's like pew, 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 right? It's the god of speed. Venus is, you know, very lovely and does all these things. Those are inner planets. Then it's Earth. And then there's Mars, and Mars is particularly troubling because if we're catching up to it from behind, think of a race, right? You're passing a runner. Outer planets move more slowly, don't they? Inner planets move more quickly, because we just solved this, right? This is worth putting up on the board, right? The solution, if you recall, for the orbital velocity is that it's the square root of gm over r, right? Earth and Mars orbit the same sun. Earth's radius is smaller than Mars, so therefore our velocity is bigger, yeah? Small r means big V, yes? Closer you are, the faster you go, right? So as we approach Mars, Mars appears to go normal, like that is, it keeps moving, right? But as we pass it, what does it appear to do? Normally it sort of has normal motion with respect to the stars, and then as we pass it, it goes backwards. This is called retrograde motion, right? Which was a great mystery to them because they didn't understand this whole idea of the planets and orbits and stuff like that. At least early on they didn't. Certainly by now they had clues. Copernicus's model was basically pretty widely accepted, the notion that they all orbit the sun, right? Okay, and so Brahe is plotting the motion of these planets. He's got precise locations of the planets for many, many nights, right? And the story is this. Well, what's the other, did anybody take astronomy? Has anybody taken that? Yeah. So what's the other thing about Brahe? Does he have a normal nose? Does he have a nose made out of silver or gold? He's got a nose made out of gold, right? And here's the option, right? His nose was cut off in a sword fight, right? And so the option is to either have this big hole in your face that kind of looks funny, or to make a nose out of gold. Why gold? Why not copper? Copper's a lot cheaper. Why don't you have earrings made of copper? Metal that sits next to your skin has to be surgical stainless steel or gold or silver. Why is this? Why? Yeah, it turns your skin green, like your body, like copper, for example, is really bad because it's like poisonous, copper ion is, right? Okay, so almost anything else will corrode and cause like metal allergies, which are really, really bad things, right? So you've got to, you got to get like expensive ear posts or whatever like that, because they've got to be gold or silver. So Brahe's got a gold nose, right? Why did he have a gold nose? Who cut his nose off? Well, his friend cut his nose off, right? And you're like, well, that's kind of mean of his friend to cut his nose off, right? And what happened was his friend just sort of took his sword and said, you've got something here, right? Brahe looked down, the guy went, phoom, like that. I'm just kidding, I don't know, I really don't know. Okay. No, what it was is this. His friend, and this is a mystery, his friend was doing him a favor. His friend should have killed him, but he didn't, he cut his nose off. Why should his friend have killed him? There was some insult, probably much less than that. Like Brahe said, your mama, and his friend said, oh yeah, and pulled the sword out. I challenge you to a duel, and what's the end of a duel? Yeah, you got to kill somebody in the end, right? But his friend couldn't kill him, so presumably, if I'm filming the scene, I really have no idea what really happened, right? His friend, Brahe falls off, his sword goes flying, right? And his friend at that moment, has him, and he should just go, right? But his friend just goes, hey, Tycho, you got something right here, right? And he cuts his nose off, right? Okay, so the guy has no nose, right? Now, have you ever seen anybody else without a nose? Well, this would be a total waste of your time, but I can tell you a story of somebody with no nose. Do you want to hear a story about someone with no nose? Okay, now, I did not see this person, but I worked closely with people who did. Okay, so it is the middle of the summer, and we are getting trail groups on trail. We've had them in camp for a day and a half or 2 days or something. We've done the health exams, all the how do you do this, how do you do that sort of things. And now it's time to go on a canoe trip. And so we're going to get dropped in Canada, southern Canada, but way north of Minnesota, right? And so the buses go up, and there's like this highway, I can't remember what it is, right? Here's the border, right? And we get dropped there, and basically we're going to make our way through the lakes and everything back to camp. Right? It was a paddle in, but we get dropped off way up there, right? Hundreds of miles, but you can paddle a long way with a canoe, right? So there we are up there, and we have this boat trailer, and the boat trailer can hold 8 canoes, I believe is what it can do. It can hold 8 canoes on it, right? This is a big trailer, and it's got these bars, and you put the canoes on there. So we load the canoes on, we strap them on, right? We've got these little bungee cords, and we start to roll out of camp, and the wheels on the back of the trailer start going. One of the wheels is going like it's wobbling. Is that good? Is that a good sign? Do you want to take that out on the highway? Yeah, probably not. The bearing was going on the wheel. The wheel was actually loose, right? And so it's like, oh crap. There's only one canoe trailer in camp. So usually there's 2, there's only 1. What do we do? Well, you know what you can do? You can lash 6 canoes on the roof of a school bus. Did you know that? When you lash it on the roof of a school bus, you use bear ropes, and you have to leave the windows slightly open because you're literally lashing it. There's no rack up there. So you're lashing it around the roof of the, are you picturing it? Like the ropes are going across inside and then around the canoes, and are you picturing that? Yeah. Okay. And if you drive on dirt roads with the windows this much open, what happens? Oh God, you get full, like your eyeballs get muddy. I mean, it was just dreadful, right? And so there we are. We've got the canoes. We've got 6 on top. We put 2 canoes on top of the Suburban. It was just like this camp vehicle, right? And off we go. Okay. How much time have we lost? Well, now instead of dropping people off at like 8 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock at night, like right before dark, or 7 o'clock, 6 o'clock at night, right? They dropped the last group off at, honest to God, like 3 in the morning, right? It's totally dark. They don't know where they're supposed to be dropping people off. It was just a total disaster, right? I got dropped off when it was just before sunset. Right, but some people, and we were actually dropped off, they thought it was our where we were supposed to paddle. It turned out to be the sewage lagoon of the city, and we had to portage around and find where we were supposed to be, asking people, right? Okay, but this one group, they were trying to get to Denoric, Canada, which is just right up there, right? And they're lost. They can't find water of any form, right, to drop these people by, and so they see this light on in the house, and they can see somebody moving around in the house. So even though it's like 2 in the morning. There's somebody awake. So what do? Knock on the door. It's Canada, right? How dangerous could that be, right? Say, knock on the door. The guy comes to the door. He has no nose. He has no nose. He has no nose. He's a man with no nose, right? So now there's 2 things you can do. When you knock on a door in the middle of the night to ask for directions and somebody comes to the door and they're not wearing a nose, you can run screaming. This is generally not very polite. They're doing you a favor, right? Or maybe they'll do you a favor. Or you can say, how do you get to the public water access in Denoric, Canada? So they chose the latter. They say, how do you get there, right? And the guy says, I know what you did. You took the first sign for Denoric. You've got to go back all the way to the main road, take the next sign for Denoric. There it is. Go straight ahead. Once you see the buildings on your right, take a left, take another right, take a left, and straight ahead. Okay, you're going to see the boat ramp right there, and you can camp there overnight. It's a public park. People do it all the time. Of that, how much did they remember? He had no nose! Remembered none of it, except for the part to go back to the highway and take the next one. So they basically dropped these people. I think they just dropped them. There was a county park. They remembered park, too. So they dropped them. They camped out in this little park in the middle of the city, next to signs that say no camping here, The people had to portage 2 miles, which is not trivial at the beginning of a trip, to find where the water was, right? So what does that have to do with Kepler? Nothing at all. Except for not having a nose.